some triggers for the rear overhand. Two is about all you need because this is a big looping shot, fairly easy to read coming in. And that's easy to read is one of the watchwords on it. So if he starts this rear looping overhand, I'm just going to stop hit. I'm going to put the jab there first because we just mentioned earlier, a straight shot beats these circle, these angle shots any day of the week. So he starts that overhand, boom, we put that jab in. So I'm still going to come back and respect it because just because I hit him doesn't mean this punch is going to stop his trajectory. It does mean this backward motion against him is going to take some stink out of it. Still going to make sure we respect what's coming. Hit and cover. Hit and cover. Stop hit with that jab and cover. If you don't have the speed, or it's later in the fight and the fatigue is set in, and the cover might be the best way to go. So as this overhand's coming in, I'm going to cover. We'll turn this one. Remember, get that hand up over the head. I'm going to cover it and go to his chest and take some loop out of it so I'm really getting caught with the forearm, which still sucks, or the inside, the crook of the arm. But since I'm going to the inside and I'm fully loaded up, return with this rear uppercut. Get over here and throw, set the trigger, cover, and rear uppercut. Notice I'm sliding in with that lead foot because total respect, the worst place to be on any punch, just like a ball bat. Whenever someone's swinging a ball bat, it's that final, 8 inches of the bat where all the power is. The closer you get down the shank of that thing, the safer it is for you. So right here, if I stay out here and cover, it's still going to knock me over to some degree, at least maybe take a few stutter steps because this guy's, what, 250, 260?
260.
Somewhere there? I'm not that. So every throws, I got to go move up the shank of this punch and then throw that rear uppercut. We'll turn so we can see the uppercut now, making you dance a lot. Get the idea on that. The next triggers we're going to look at are triggers against the high lead hook. We still have keep telling you, we're going to be diminishing the amount of triggers in some of the other punches because like for uppercuts and rear overhands and stuff, they appear less, but the high hook has got a lot of options to play with there. I guess the high lead hook, first off, like we did a stop hit against the rear overhand, same thing with that lead hook. This hook is coming in straight shot, beats this circling motion anytime. So every time there's a hook, put the jab in. I put the jab in, put a little slight juke to the outside, or put a cover up, or at least put a forearm block in. Stop hit on that hook. Stop hit, and make sure I got a safety on it to make sure that I respect what this punch can do, because, you say you're going to miss more than you hit, you might be missing with that jab sometimes. You can also stop hit with the rear straight. Remember, jab's the fastest punch in your arsenal. And some people can be very, very quick with the rear straight shot. And if you're one of those people, this is what you can use. But keep in mind, we're still using the same theory that the straight beats the angled shot. We're going to see if we can make the cross, get there before the hook comes in. So as you read his hook coming in, right down the center. And you'll notice as I'm coming in, I'm winging, sorry about that, I'm putting that shoulder up over the jaw, still to respect it because, again, I could be taking him back, but it doesn't take any of the impact off. There's a chance you still be getting caught around the top of the head. But like we were saying earlier in the combinations, fighters get hit, good fighters don't get hit as much. The other thing we should keep in mind, when you are getting hit, you're trying to provide less than optimal targets. As we know, get knocked out on the jaw, the chin, you can bust the nose up, but we start moving up from the brow line and up, getting closer to being okay. Doesn't mean it's pleasant, but it's a better target to have hit. So we throw, I stop hit with that cross. What I also have available to me are just using some of the covers. We talked about whenever this is coming in, I spider web up over the arms like we did the spider web cover against the rear overhand. I got to go to his chest each time. Cover, move in. We'll turn this around. We see what's going on with this rear hand. I'm doing a cover. My trigger punching on these, as soon as I feel him make contact with his hook, I throw my own hook. So cover and return. Cover and return. Cover and return. I can also cover and immediately return with the cross. It will probably read best from this side. There's a lot of dancing in this particular section. Again, I'm going to cover and immediately fire out of this position with a short cross. I don't get a chance to bring it all the way from back here, but cover and make it a short looping shot. Cover and in. Cover and in. And in. Get the idea. Fairly simple. But again, drill them for those 3-minute rounds. Whenever he's throwing this hook, we've got the forearm block. Remember, it's similar to the cover, except we take the arm out and away. Remember, this is slightly more dangerous because we know if we take a look at this overhand, how this thing could loop around and still catch me in the ear. So I got to make sure I get a little bit of a concussion shock taking this thing to the outside. Whenever I give this forearm block, What I'm also going to do is I'm going to wheel to the inside, which means pivot to the inside on the inside ball of the foot. So there's that wheel in this position, and then I can throw the hook. This hook can be low to the liver. It can be high to the not liver. So it's forearm block, wheel, and put the shot in there. And the reason we're doing that little bit of a wheel is because I could stay right here and drop this low, but we do know I'm still right in front of this evil, mean power hand. Now, it doesn't mean if you've got some speed, you can still throw this same return shot out of the forearm block. You can still throw a hook at the same time and without having to wheel to the outside. So in the forearm block, though, this time, though, I'm going to throw an uppercut. Instead of me trying to stay right in front of him and throw a return with the same hook, he can still cut the angle with a straight shot. So I'm going to go a little bit low and fire the uppercut. And it looks like, oh, you're leading directly in the punch. Remember we talked about before yesterday when he threw that hook, the straight shot out here, fairly strong. You can listen to the impact. Once we bring it to here, a lot less so. So whenever I'm doing the forearm block this time, I'm shuffling in and putting the lead uppercut to the body. And you see this, he's having to vibrate that straight shot from right here. Now, it doesn't mean I stay down there. We know we're always coming right back to a nice recovery position. This is going to be the forearm block, lead uppercut. Get the idea. Okay, after your forearm block, we can start putting in a series of counters just straight off the duck. And we know that he's throwing that hook, bending, not folding forward at the waist, bending down at the knees. The first shot we're going to return with is going to be across the body. He throws, bam, bam. I'm saying bam on your liver now. There you go. Got the idea. We can also put the duck, and after that our trigger shot is going to be the hook. Then we put the duck in and have the trigger shot as the rear hook. So he throws a duck, and I'm loading up to throw this lead hook at the same time. I do not want to duck and then decide to throw the lead hook because that's going to give me like a beat and a half to make this shot work. So I'm wanting to duck and be turning, twisting forward over that inside ball of the foot at the same time. So duck and throw the hook at the same time. By the same token, when I throw that rear hook, I'm going to duck and be loading for this rear shot at the same time. It's not going to be duck and then load, separating that into two moves. We're trying to make sure we're descending directly into the shot. He throws the hook, and we're underneath it, underneath it, each and every time. Off of the duck, you can also, well, if you're grappling, which we're not supposed to be doing on this material, obviously, anytime you throw a duck, you know, going directly for a double leg, a single leg, any of the takedown material, which we're not running through on this, that's what the complete grappler, most all of our other material out there is all about. But keep in mind, the duck is very conducive for running it directly into a shoot. You got someone head hunting, throwing something, perfect trigger for grapplers to learn enough boxing for defense, throwing some things back. The MMA guys and HB guys immediately block it out, duck, shoot, take him down. He's punching high, you go low, take the shoot where you can. We can also play the pull out of this. Let's turn this way. On the pull, I can return with the hook, but we've already talked about whenever I do the pull before, we've pulled and we talked about I could be running right back into this straight hand. You're thinking, well, pretty sure Mark is full of it because he keeps telling us we're not supposed to be coming right back with a round angle because this one's going to eat us up. The difference on this pull is, remember we talk about these little whipping hooks? I'm going to pull and throw this hook at the same time. It's very similar to that short inside hook that we gave against the high cross position. So we're coming back. I'm kind of leaning back a little bit and throwing this whipping hook. At the same time, I get the pull. So this means I'm throwing a hook. Instead of the weight being in the inside ball of the foot, it shifts to the outside. I mean the rear foot on the inside ball of the foot. So he throws his hook, and I'm back here. It's got a nice open looping shot. Now obviously it does not look like correct form. That's not how you would standardly throw a shot in a boxing match, but it does have its place. So he throws his hook, pull, put the shot in, and then I would put my return in. So we're here, and then we're right back in on top. Pull, and then pull, put that long looping hook in there. We can also pull and just return directly back with one of our straight shots. Now, the straight shot we are going to return with, in this case, is going to be a cross. In case you're wondering why I'm not returning the jab, he's throwing a hook. Chances are that his next shot is going to be off of this rear hand. So if I'm coming back with this jab, notice it opens me up and I'm leaning directly in to get myself cocked in the chin or the jaw. And that's what I'm talking about with the triggers, we're just not blindly putting punches together. We're trying to put punches together that take into account what his next shot is most likely to be. So he throws the hook, I pull, and I'm going to return with the cross because this means I can come back in, shield it up, and cover it against what is probably going to be a counter-revolution throw, something off the rear side of the body. So it's going to pull and return with the cross. So pull and return, pull, and return. Get the idea. We're going to play with against this high lead hook this time is making our cross glove catch happen. Remember in the cross glove, as he's throwing his hook and I'm allowing this to impact into my palm, again, he's not punching in my palm, he wants the face, we probably see on the overhead. He's not punching in front of me and I'm just going, look at that. That's a cool defense. Now he's throwing right in here, and I got to lean back with it and put that glove into play. Now we're going to make sure in this cross glove, the triggers that are going to come directly out of this. The first one we've got is just returning with our own hook. So I'm going to cross glove, and I'm patting him a little bit to stop the punch, but you'll notice his forward momentum actually, there's a little bit of a give and take here. We can see this over here. I'll be patting in, and he's pushing at the same time, which is putting my hand right back into position to return with my own hook. So he throws, and return the own hook. Catch, and return. Catch, return. Catch, and return. We can also cross glove and return with the lead uppercut. So hits, and I'm allowing this slight cocking over right here to turn this into a short lead uppercut, all right? Get the idea on that one. We can cross glove and return with the rear uppercut. On this, we're going to hit, and since we got this spot open right here, as we're returning this hand, we're going to turn and cock in with that rear uppercut. So, and no bam till just then. Okay, we've got the cross glove. This time we return out of the cross glove. We're going to trigger that directly into a jab. So here, this is going to be a show jab because my hand is already, it's not in the proper position. It's going to catch right here from this point to this point right here. Notice I still try to get a little bit of hip into it. Slide in. Short shot, but it's right there. We've also got this opportunity to do this cross glove catch and return with the rear hook. So catch this up and bring this directly over the top, which in a sense is a true cross versus a hook. And we know a true cross is actually rear hook anyway. So it's going to be catch the, let's say that 3 times fast. Better yet done. So we're here and return. Get the idea. I'm going to close this out with the step back. Let's reverse this, please. We already know, drive off the lead foot to the rear foot, come right back in. We're going to return with straight shots versus the hooks, step back, come back in with the jab, step back, come in with the cross. Just a few of each of these. He throws, bam, right back, 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 cross, cross, cross. Get the, he's still ready to go. Good for you. Get the idea. High lead hook. It's still, you can lead with a high lead hook, and that's why there is still a pretty large vocabulary of triggers you want to work from that particular punch. Now, some of the other punches that are going to follow up will have diminishing amounts of trigger punching vocabulary because you're going to encounter them less frequently. But make sure, again, run them all, even ones that you think, I'm not very good at that one, at least 3 3-minute rounds. Please do yourself that favor. Continue on with our trigger punching. We just did the high lead hook. We're going to play with the high rear hook right here. When the high rear hook comes in, this is an easier punch to read, particularly if it's the one that's being initiated with. So we'll open up with what should be obvious at this point, just a jab as a stop hit. So whenever you see this rear hook coming in, just put the jab up the center, right down the line. That's your trigger, and you see your elbow being up and high, providing you a little bit of a leverage block. That should take care of the punch. So he throws right on. That was some control, wasn't it? Almost shaved you right there. What we can also play with that one is just we're going to take a step back. We've been doing a step back on most of these others, and we're going to take a big step back in and return with the cross. So he throws that rear hook back, big step. I'm going to lunge and put that in so I can really put some power on top of this. So we throw it back and return, back, return, back, and return. We can also start playing with our covers because against a rear hook, it's a powerful shot, and if you're really tight on the inside fight, you can't necessarily read it coming in. The cover is going to be the game you have to play. We're going to turn it and then throw that cover. We're doing the cover. So if we're already nice and tight, since it's coming from this back side, it's really hard to forearm block these with any kind of real accuracy because we're still going to get some loop and it catches me in the head. So I'm probably going to have to bring this hand up again over the ear and start putting a little bit of a lean in. So he throws, here's my covers, 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 covers. Now the triggers out of these covers are going to be, first and foremost, it's going to be a lead hook. He throws, I'm going to throw a short hook from the inside right from where it is. This elbow's going to raise and put the hook in right here. Probably plays best directly on the overhead. So he throws in, raise the elbow, there's that short shot at the same time. Here and on top, here and on top. You might turn that, see if it opens up, faces here, here, inside, here, inside with that hook. We can also cover, at that point, just return with the cross. So he covers, it's going to be a short cross from the inside. We know these do not have as much jolt on them because we know knockouts need room, but there's something still devastating about getting caught right flush in the face, even if it's only 8 to 10 inches away. So cover, there's the cross, cover, and the cross right on top of it. We can also cover and throw the rear hook with this or a rear overhand. We'll show both variations. We're going to cover against it and then for good turn put our rear hook in on top of it. Now when we're doing this, keep in mind we know that he's going to be firing back with this hand. At this point though, people don't throw a jab from this tight. He's going to have to throw his own rear hook. So when we're doing this, we have to make sure we're timing with a short rear hook of our own. We do not want to be coming looping on this because his return hook would beat us to the punch. So it's going to have to be here and a short shot. Cover and with that rear hook at the same time. Now, I'm showing this one. Keep in mind, I have my reservations about it, but I've seen some good fighters pull it off. Off the cover, you can also put the cover in on top of it and then immediately loop an overhand in. I'm not, for the most part, though, where this is coming in, though, when you have a fighter who plays one of these reference points. So if he's playing from here, he gets that rear hook in. Overhand makes sense because his hand, all he's got available at this point is a lead uppercut. Not taking anything away from the lead uppercut, but if you're where you're throwing here, and if that lead uppercut were coming, we've got that glove block coming in. So keep in mind, if his hands are up and he throws this overhand is not in play because this is going to beat you. So he's one of these guys who's playing down here, he throws, that's where the overhand comes into play. So make sure we understand where we're using that particular trigger. I'm going to close out this section on the high rear hook. We can also use, we ducked against the high lead hook, do the same thing with the rear hook. We can return the triggers off of this, will be ducked, throw a jab to the body, lever again, and we can also duck and throw across the body. We'll hit both of those. He throws right into it. Notice whenever I'm ducking, again, I'm ducking where I'm already loaded up on this punch. It's not a duck and then trying to shift forward into it. We're ducking into that lead, the inside ball of the foot. So, bam, shot. I still whispered bam, I bet the microphone picked it up. Same thing, he throws the shot, and I'm going to put in, start pivoting forward. I'm trying to get that pivot at the same time as I throw that across the body. Get the idea. Now the last one on here, we get to utilize our drop shift again. Remember the drop shift is where we're actually doing a little bit of a stance shift, going down and underneath and into the opponent. So I said underneath without saying overneath.
Way to go.
Except I called attention, I said overneath.
Then you stopped and did it.
I'm going to pull the drag back about 4 inches. There's a lot going on here, but it's really not that hard to do once you find the timing on it. Drag back 4 inches, the same time I'm descending the stance, and step forward with the rear leg. So it's going to be this motion here. So he's throwing that hook to here, to here. And I got my hands up. We should be close. I got to respect this shot. I can't have it down like I just was lazily here. And in. Now once we've done this, I'm not going to throw an uppercut with this rear hand, which now became the lead hand because this elbow could be in the way. Let's hit this open spot. So it's here. This is where the uppercut's going to come into play. A few more from this side, then we'll turn it around. There we go. Let's turn it. So I got the drop shift, here, step, here. Get the idea. Closing it out. That's a little bit more of a complex skill set. That's why we put it at the end of the section. Don't ignore it. Play with it. See if you can get that drop shift down. Take a look at the triggers now for the lead uppercut. He throws this lead uppercut. Remember, we're going to start off with the forearm block. Remember, it's not me moving the elbow, it's me turning the torso to block this out. So he throws, forearm block, forearm block. My first trigger out of this is just return with my own lead uppercut. Right back into position. It's a nice one to throw because he's already countered his body. We'll turn this a bit. When he throws that uppercut, notice he has to turn and open this up. For him to block this, he's going to have to turn his body. So since he's already turned it into the target zone, he might as well eat that up. So he throws in here. So forearm block, immediately return with your lead uppercut. We can also forearm block and immediately return with our own hook. So when he throws, we return, hook to the high, hook to the high, hook to the head, hook to the knot liver. Get the idea on that one. Next, we got a rear glove block directly into a jab. The rear glove block, as this uppercut is coming in, open up the rear hand and slap down into the shot. So as it's coming in, they'll slap down. There's that glove block. Immediately put the jab in on top to here. We'll turn this around. Glove, into the jab, into the jab. Just like that. We can also use the lead glove blocks to start returning. Whenever he throws that lead uppercut, I'm going to slap down with the lead hand and return with my own cross to right here. So he throws, cross, in. I can also do the lead glove block, return immediately with the rear hook at the high level. Rear hook to the hip. I think that those should make sense to you right there. Staying with the lead uppercut triggers. On this one, we're going to use this rear glove block as it comes in. I'm going to return immediately with my own lead uppercut. We did this, it looks like the same variation of something we did before. We did against the forearm block. We know he's turned into us and opened up the liver. You know, I obviously have a grudge against Mitch's liver this entire time. Put that glove block in and return. Glove block, return with your own lead uppercut. We can also just do pull away from this, a pull or a rock, depends on whatever you want to call it. When he gives that lead uppercut, I'm going to have to give a deeper one, because if he's close enough to give me an uppercut, this slight motion can still travel up and catch me. So again, we're talking about don't lean away from punches. It's best not to. This is particularly dangerous, but sometimes it has its place. It's kind of one of those oh shit maneuvers. It's a Hail Mary play. It's going to be a big pull, a big rock back, and return immediately with your own cross. So we're in tight, big pull, and right back. Big, back, big, and return. Just one more time from this side. So I'm sure everyone at home has the creative insight to see. I mean, imagine what that would have looked like and to make sure it was visible. We can also do the step back like we've done on everything else. We're in tight. We realize we don't like this inside fight anymore. This guy's bigger than you are. Bigger than I am. It's bigger than most people. Take that big step back away from it and return immediately with that cross. So out, return slightly on that mid-range because I don't like what's going on the inside. Drive back and immediately right back in. The last one we're going to show you for this, we'll have to turn this one more time, against the lead uppercut. We use that lead glove block. And since, notice how, if he's got a lot of power on this, which imagine that this man does, it starts traveling my hand up. If my hand gets stopped down here, I'm not going to do this, but I realize if I hit it and it starts rising up with me, puts my hand about this, even with the breastbone, I'm going to travel directly from here and give him a short hook. So it's going to be slap down glove block. If it travels up, return to here with the hook. So, you didn't want to like this because I liked it. There you go. Far less choices on the triggers for the lead uppercut because it's an inside fight. The game can be going a little bit faster at that point. Still, you got to drill them, and they will start coming out naturally in your game. But it's like everything else, you got to drill it again and again and again. Triggers against the rear uppercut. We're going to need a forearm block first and foremost, but we're going to turn the body to some degree to absorb the blow. And again, since he's opened up, he's had to turn this direction to open up that liver. Let's return with our own rear uppercut. So we're here. There's the trigger. And immediate return. Now, what we can also do off of this rear forearm block, we can take the rear forearm block. Let's turn this a little bit. Not a little bit. Let's go ahead and actually turn it. Gives the rear forearm block, and since he's turned, but notice he's opened up this line for us, we're going to fire a hook from this position. We're just going to raise the elbow and bring this in over the top. So it's here, raise the elbow, and on the hook. This is a nice little tight infighting combination. Well, infighting trigger. We can also, at this point, against the rear uppercut, play with the rear glove block. As the rear uppercut comes in, we use the open up with the rear hand, absorb the blow in the palm of the hand. At this point, we're going to return with our own hook again. We already just did return the hook, but we did it across the forearm, open up, and return. Fairly easy one to do. Well, at least in concept, put your drills in. Everything's hard to execute in the fight. That's why you gotta drill these things so many times. We can also start running through a pull section. We can pull and start returning with our own hook. If we pull away from this, it's gonna have to be a bigger rock back, as we discussed on the lead uppercut, because if I just pull slightly, this can still travel with the chin. So we're really violating principle here with leaning back and away from the punch. We still try and come back and catch him with this open position. Back, and return with the hook. Pull, back, pull, and back. We can also pull at this point and return with the cross, pull, cross, because it's still fairly open along that line that time, because he has to turn to throw that uppercut and open up this rear side line for us, put that cross in on top. We can also, at this point, start putting a step back in. On the step back, we'll turn this. Put the step back again, drive off the lead foot, come right back in with a jab. So he throws right back in with the jab. At this point, it starts looking repetitive. A lot of the triggers can be the same, but you can realize it's actually a finite number of punches you return with, but it's how we start mixing and matching all these triggers and putting these things together into flow drills and countering out drills, which we'll discuss here in a bit. With the, in addition to the step backs, we can start moving into stop hitting. We got to keep in mind, for nice and we're in tight, for someone to throw a rear uppercut, it calls for so much transfer of the weight. Because if we can be nice on the inside fight, I throw the lead uppercut, sure there's some weight transfer. But take a look at the difference. On a rear uppercut, you got to really dig in, and there is a tail whenever this punch is coming in. So it is possible to put some stop hits in. We're going to stop hit with the jab, we can stop hit with the hook, and stop hit means we might give a slight pull to make sure we're getting out of range of it, but we're trying to stop the momentum of this shot. So with the jab and the hook, as he starts that rear uppercut, slight lean back over that rear inside ball of the foot. We know we're always supposed to be punching on the lead inside ball of the foot, but this is where, again, we're breaking the rule to make these things happen. So set back, throw that show jab for the stop hit. Right on top. I'm kind of pulling these back. Same thing when he throws. You can lean back and put in that hook. The same thing where I'm leaning over that rear inside ball of the foot. Put that hook in and eat up that line. We'll turn that one so we can see that line. Right here, back in, back in, back in. You see, that takes me out of target range. If I throw the hook from right here, this still is making contact. But as soon as I go rock back on that rear inside ball of the foot, it gives me exactly what I want. Now we can also block out this rear uppercut with the lead glove block. It's a little more awkward, but it still has its place within the context of the trigger game. Whenever he throws this in, I'm opening up and using the lead hand to pat this down. Whenever I got this patted down, I'm going to dip that shoulder because I got to go low. Because I want to throw my own lead uppercut, but we know counter-revolution theory means he's going to be throwing this rear hand. If I stay high, chances are he's looking for the head. So we pat that down, go low, and then put in our own rear uppercut. Turn on this side, so this pat, here we go. Pat, return, pat, return, pat, return, pat, return. So you get the idea. The return triggers on the lead uppercut and the rear uppercut, not nearly as many as we showed you on the high jabs and the crosses and the high hooks and such, because once we get inside, two reasons. Uppercuts happen, when you watch a match, you seldom do you see the uppercuts come into play. And the other reason is once you get to the inside game, it's harder to read punches. At least on the outside, we can start seeing what's going on. Get inside, the vision starts closing up to some degree. You get closer to a field game. Now, just because there's fewer choices to be made here, you still have to work these just as hard, because the inside game, in many senses, is far more dangerous than the outside game. So please work all of these hard. Pay close attention to the infighting stuff, though. There's some triggers for the jab to the body. So this means Mitch gets to look for my liver throughout this entire thing. Yeah, please don't hurt my liver, okay? Okay, the jab comes in. We can start playing with the scooping. Remember, we got the rear hand. We got the ball and socket joint. We're taking the hand to the outside. So the scooping looks like this motion right here. Now you see, since he's all the way down this crouch position and we're throwing the scoop, and we talked about when you throw a low shot, you need to immediately either come up immediately or move out. And the reason you do that is because of this. You put the jab directly on top of it. Rear scoop, right in the jab. First and easiest trigger for this particular punch, this particular level. We can also move from the rear scoop directly into our own rear uppercut. It's going to be a little bit of an odd motion. Get this little circular, almost Tai Chi-ish motion here. Scoop this to the outside, but I turn and advance the hip. Think about moving over the inside ball of the foot, and then bring this uppercut. This line is so totally open at this point. Hopefully you can see right here as we scoop this to the outside, then eat it up right in here. So scoop, uppercut, right off of this. So we're firing this uppercut from this position, having to turn and recover without turning from here. Go ahead, here, and then recocking and loading. So it's going to be knock it out, return, rear scoop, right back into that rear uppercut. We can also rear scoop and put that lead uppercut in. So right here, I'll turn it so we can see that. Rear uppercut, I'm already down and loaded with it, and then come right up the center with it. So we're here, oh. Get the idea on those. Whenever we're doing our lead scoop on this, remember it's the lead hand, ball and socket joint, knocking this to the outside. From this position on the lead scoop, I can return with my own lead uppercut. On this lead uppercut, I do not have to come back to the inside of the body. That probably shows in the overhead. Right here, that would be a bit awkward to scoop this and then went back through. That's too ornamental, too baroque, too much work. So we're going to scoop this and then immediately turn this to slide up, almost like a leverage block where we can feel contact the entire way. So scoop and put this uppercut in. Scoop, uppercut, scoop, and start moving in with that uppercut. We can also return with the rear uppercut off of this lead scoop. We're hitting the exact same target area, but it might feel a bit more natural for you. You're going to find, though, once you work this isn't that hard to put in. It doesn't have the same cocked and loaded feeling as if you could just fire it tight from here, but it's still going to work out for you. Now, the rear uppercut return will feel cocked and loaded. So we see lead scoop, return, and put that shot in. Get the idea. And remember, he's already turned on it, and I can't be punching right here, because if he's returning down, I'm going to catch the elbow. I'm trying to catch him to the outside, so even if he pulls back, I got a chance, even if I screw up, I'm catching the meat of the tricep and saving my hands, particularly in these small gloves, or if I'm working with no gloves in the street environment. We can also work with forearm blocking here. And now whenever he's throwing this jab, oftenly, the low jab, I want to work with the rear forearm block because it's more conducive to me returning with the counter. If I'm always blocking with the lead forearm, I'm not having to do too much work. It's going to be a much larger tell for him to start covering up, getting defensive with me. So if I'm thinking about playing counters, more often than not, it could be the rear forearm. So he throws, I turn the body, put it on that rear forearm the entire time. And the first return I'm going to show you, return with the jab. They're going to return with a hook. So return, jab. Same time, can return with the hook. Rear forearm block, right back with the hook. You get the idea. We're just saying that I'd prefer you to block with that rear forearm. But yet when we ran through the defensive arsenal, I said, yeah, you can block with the lead forearm, and make sure we do give you a trigger that does work from there, even though the rear forearm block is going to be the superior one. Whenever he throws, lead forearm block, and immediately return with your own cross over the top. So when he throws, over the top. And you keep in mind that lead forearm block is the only trigger I'm giving you from that lead position, because to make sure that you realize that we want this one, and it's going to be a little bit easier for you to choose, but it's an easier one for him to read, because if he's throwing that jab low and stepping to the outside, he's going to be gone. So we're going to make sure that more often than not, use the rear forearm on it. Now we've stepped back on almost all these triggers, and the same thing's going to happen here. We're going to step back and return with the jab, and also we're going to step back and return with the cross. He throws low, out, and back in with my jab. Out, back in, back in the cross, out, back in with the cross. You don't need any more of those because you get the idea of how these work. It's getting repetitive at this point, but hopefully they still understand where they have their specific place within this little trigger dichotomy that we're playing with right now. Cross the body now. Here's some couple of handfuls of triggers you can work against this. Since it is a punch, I mean, he's got to move this entire body mass down and then forward and firing off the rear hand. It's a fairly big tell, and I mean, for any fighter, no matter what weight class it is, so a stop hit is a good idea, and of course the stop hit we're going to use here is your primary punch, which is the jab. So as soon as he moves in, put the jab in. Notice I'm putting a little cheat backwards on this because I got to respect the fact, even if I put this in, if he's got more range, I still might feel some impact on the ribs. And I'm not a fan of that stuff. Throw a little bit of a step back, and there's going to be a little bit of a rock back on the weight of the rear inside ball of the foot. I'm not going to come all the way back to it, but I got to step back and plant some weight into it. So he throws, there's the stop hit, stop hit, stop hit, stop hit, and stop hit. Following that, we can start scooping against this thing. We're going to do a lead scoop and return with a rear uppercut, and we're going to lead scoop and return with a lead uppercut. So when he throws, remember that scooping we just did against the jab. Scoop this to the outside. We got to watch his hand because we know he's probably going to fire on this, and so we got to turn and go low since he banged low. If he starts to throw another punch low as we're turning in, we're covered up here. If he's throwing high, we're going underneath it with this rear uppercut. So he's going scoop and then scoop and trigger with that rear uppercut. Now, just as we did an awkward return off of a scoop with the same arm into an uppercut off the jab, low jab, we do the same thing here. Lead scoop, and then dip down immediately and return with our own lead uppercut. So scooping and immediately firing from where it's at, pointing the elbow down and riding in, like a variation of a leverage block. Scooping and in, scoop, in here, in here, in here. Get the idea there. Out of the scooping, we can start moving into the forearm blocking. We talked about using the rear forearm more often than not so we can fire back and do our counter punching or trigger punching with the lead arm. With across the body, we're going to get to play a little bit with the lead forearm and the rear forearm. With using the lead forearm block initially, we're going to hit with the rear hook. So he's throwing with this cross, and this is a little bit more kosher to play it with the lead forearm block because you would have to do a big turn to block with that rear forearm. So we're going to have the lead forearm block, return immediately with our own rear hook. Bang. That's two bangs. You get shut up and return. Forearm block and rear hook. We're going to block with the rear forearm, we're going to turn with the lead hook. And again, I'm not going to manipulate my body if we can watch the overhand. When he's throwing this, I'm not going to decide to turn all the way across my body to block this out. Then again, this is something I've been slightly cheated out of position, so I'm already close enough. It would be closer if we put the rear forearm in than the lead forearm. So I'm cheated out of position, got this block, and then return with the hook. So in this one, I might have started to sidestep as this was coming in and pop. Get the idea on that particular trigger. After the forearm blocking, we've done a step back on everything else. We got to do a step back here. We're going to step back, fire back with the jab, and we're also going to step back, fire back with the cross. Getting repetitive here, I know, but we got to stay true to what the material, the truth of the material. He throws, step back, return with the jab. Notice again, there's a bit of a cheat back towards that inside rear ball of the foot. Return with the jab, now return with the cross, return with the cross, You got your step backs, return with 2 straights. Make sure you can beat out if he's deciding to return, go upstairs with a couple of his hooking angles or coming up with an uppercut angle. We've done the step back. We're also going to do some more footwork. We're going to start moving some side stepping. We can sidestep to the inside and fire a lead uppercut, or we can sidestep to the inside and fire a lead hook as well. When we're saying inside of this one, we're not moving necessarily, we're not trying to move into his other power hand. We know this is one that's going to fire next. We're saying moving on the inside of this, we're going to move to the inside of his body, or actually we're going to work to the inside of this punch. So when he throws this cross, moving here. So basically it's the outside of his arm, but I'm looking to move to the inside and hit on the inside of the body. So the first turn of that lead uppercut, as he throws, my side step's going to be 45 to the outside. Let's look at it over here. Cross on the overhead. So we got the cross only, going slow. We're going to stick that at the end. There's that side step. Side step, 45. Notice if the lateral does me no good, I've lost my range on it. To here. Now we'll start throwing the uppercut at the center. There's the shot, shot. There's the shot. I can put that in as a hook with that side step. Put the hook in. Notice each time we step around, there's been that same step in, realign the weight, throw the punch, and get the weight over that inside ball of the foot, trying to stay proper to the form all the way through so we can get the most snap out of the punch as we can manage while we're moving around in the context of this chaotic fight. I'm going to close out this lengthy trigger punching section. We're talking about hooking to the body. I'm going to show you just the triggers off of the lead hook to the body, the rear hook to the body. You would just take everything that we trigger off with this lead side, just do the mirror with the rear side. Make sure we just don't keep taking this material too much further, because I think we're already at 400 hours and counting with all the material we got thrown at you. So when he throws this his lead hook to the body, forearm blocking is going to be your wisest course to begin with. Just close it up and throws, and take it off the arm. Pretty simple in that defense. Once you're in tight, that's going to be your best way to go. It calls for less commitment from your hands, less trying to perceptual speed, trying to figure out what punch he's throwing. Now, what you're going to throw off of this, as soon as you feel this make contact, throw that short cross right on the inside. Bang, that's your first trigger. Right in the inside. Right in the inside. Now you can do the same thing with that rear forearm block. Your next trigger is going to be, whenever you block that out, then throw a hook with your lead side. So we already know that I'm covering on this side, so as soon as I feel it make contact, I return immediately. So contact, return, contact, return. Now to keep in mind on all these triggers, it's got to be, it sincerely is a trigger. Would be incorrect if you can pay attention to the overhand and right up front. As soon as he hits, it's not here, oh, now punch. It's got to be make contact and on. Contact and on. And that may not necessarily be clear all the way through since we're playing at a nice game. Optimally, like I said, we got to put the mouthpieces in, headgear on, and as soon as that leather makes contact, you got to be out of the block and banging against this guy immediately. It literally is a trigger. Whenever you feel the contact in your body, you got to fire that bullet immediately. Now, also what we can do with that rear forearm block is we can return with a rear uppercut. We're going to have to come back over here in our dance. Throws that rear, he shows his lead. Out of this immediately, going to turn with the hip and come up the center. Since I'm already low, if I eat the chin, if he's a taller fighter, I eat the liver. Remember, we're not being choosy with their choice of levels on an uppercut. He throws, block it with the rear forearm, and then up the center. Turn up. These are nice, short, inside punches. These are the kind of things that's hard for refs to read, but if they're really nice and cumulative, and anybody's get on the inside fight, you got to appreciate people who can fight from these nice, tight inside angles. But this only happens if you train these triggers within a drill fashion, or else they never really occur to you once you get to the inside. There's a tendency just want to shell up and forget to throw back, or just kind of throw wide looping hooks. In addition to just blocking with the forearms, we know that to throw the hook to the body, chances are this was a close-in fight. If you decide the close-in fight is too much for you, it's time to disengage. It's time to step back, and you know what we're going to do in here. We're going to step back and return with a jab, or we're going to step back and return with the cross. So he throws back and with the cross. Back in with the jab. Jab, jab, in with the cross, in with the cross, in with the cross. Again, you would take all these same things. If he was throwing the rear hook, same thing, forearm blocking and returning with that same side. Just flip everything over we just did. I'm sure at this point you've seen enough of this triggering. You can start figuring out how this is going to look. And at this point also, there are the other triggers that can occur. What I'm giving you are the highest percentage ones, the ones that have the 90% success rate, as I observed in all these boxing matches that you can get your hands on, whether the old school or the new stuff. But once you understand how the triggers work, you can create your own. Anytime you do any kind of blocking or defensive motion, just start asking yourself, are there any other logical follow-ups? How you can start creating your own triggers. You can have your opponent just throw a punch. You can call it, say, give me a high rear hook, and figure out which defense, and we'll freeze at the end. Put your defense in there and start asking yourself, just freeze it, and then both of you can kind of pick it apart like mechanics and say, what would likely come out of this next? We've already done a whole section of this high rear hook, but at this point, it might be possible to go ahead and just put one of those chopping axe punches in right here. So we get the idea that triggering can be much more vast than the material we presented to you, but this is how you continue to create more. If we pick another punch, let's say maybe a lead uppercut again. This one, I got this glove block on it right here. Maybe this time I decide to rise up with that shrugging upward forearm. Upward elbow on this. That one will work. Let's say we've got another jab. We did so many in the jab. What's the likelihood of us finding more ideas? Maybe it's another cover along with that destroying the arm when we come in this time. It could also be against the high jab when it comes in. We talked about doing a rising jab before. Well, maybe this rising jab comes up all the way underneath into the tricep. Maybe against the high jab whenever it's coming in. This one we caught it this time. We decided to ride it back, muffle against both hands as he's getting his negative retraction. Here we ride both of them back in. Your job is to freeze them at the end sometimes, be an engineer, create some new ones. You don't have to go that extra step. There's more than enough material in the trigger section to keep you going for years, but in case you think, hey, I want more than this, I'm going to keep making this more complex and more intellectually engaging, that's how you would go about creating your own triggers, or just observe fights and see if there's something that's high percentage that seems to be working that's not already on this presented material and add it to the menu. What's next for us after the trigger punching concept should be the counter-punching flow drill concept. Now, we covered counter-punching flow drills in depth in ABCs of NHB Volume 1. Now, this material, we are already chest deep in the pugilism material right now. I mean, this is just going on and on and on. And rather than repeat the material we showed you in that the ABCs of NHB Volume 1, I'm going to just introduce the concept, just introduce the idea of how the flow drills work, how they should be stepped after trigger punching. So basically, you're going to be learning your footwork, everything in this, showing everything in the proper order. You got your footwork, your foundations of your arsenal, your defensive arsenal. Start moving through your combinations. Trigger punching starts getting used to having punches thrown at you and you're returning the punches. Like on the trigger punching, which I neglected to say after three-minute rounds of him throwing a high jab and me returning with one trigger, we flip that around. I would throw the jab at Mitch, and then he would get to return that back on me. So you're getting to work both sides of the coin. After the triggers feel good, then you start moving into the counter-punching flows. Now, what we're going to do here, rather than show you 5 or 6 flows, we're going to take one. Even then, we're only going to take one portion of a flow drill to give you the idea. And then again, I would have to direct you. I know it sounds like an upsell, but it is. We don't want to make this material too long. Run you back to the ABCs of NHB and Volume 1 and plug it in at this point in the material to get the idea of how this stuff plugs together. And counter-punching flow drills are basically taking triggers and then placing them one after the other. And what you can do with the counter-punching flows is basically that gets to a point where it almost feels like infinite with the number of counter-punching flows you can create. So first, we're going to start off with just one idea that we would take all the way through, perhaps for the three-minute round, something we've already done. It's going to be a 1-for-1. He's going to throw a jab, and I'm just going to do a catch on. He throws, or a nice, relaxed level, we'd be moving around. Constant jab, and putting the catch on it. We can actually slow it down, put a little more breathing room in between. Get used to moving, putting that catch on top. And that's it. So we've already done this to a large degree. We've worked this in the defensive arsenal to some degree. If I returned right now, we'd be back to the trigger punching. What's going to happen next, though, is we're going to start manipulating what the responses are. He's thrown the jab, and I've caught. Now he's going to hook off his jab now. He's thrown the jab, I've caught it, then he's going to immediately throw a lead hook, and I'm going to cover against it. We'll take this nice and slow. Again, you would build this through rounds. You throw that jab, immediately lead hook, and I went right into a cover. And that's all we would do for these next 3 minutes, and then a few more rounds afterwards. So we're here, we're here. You get the idea when you start playing the game this way, it gets closer and closer to feeling like a sparring match. And the entire time, we're still respecting each other in the sense we'll put a little bit more body movement and such. We're throwing and I'm catching and receiving. We're not just going to go hit, hit. Okay, that was good. Now do it again. We're going to make sure we're staying nice and tight, dynamic, to some degree alive as we can within this limited confines of footwork room we have right now. Now the next step I would put on this to show you how we keep doing a little tiered process on this. We got the jab, I catch. And then here we go with the hook, and I got the cover on it. I'm going to return across, and he's just going to slip to the outside of it. See that motion there? So nice and slow. Look at that. 3 points on this so far. So it's like building a combination with points, except it gets more dangerous because you're both throwing things at each other. You got to make damn sure that you both understand what's happening within the context of these flow drills. Optimally, these are done with headgear on and mouthpieces. But again, slowly, catch, cover, Irish throw. Notice how I'm still respecting his punch afterwards. He's not even throwing anything back yet. I'm still pretending that he is. Got to make this feel as close to a fight as I can. Here, here, and he slips. Catch, cover, and he slips against that cross. Catch, cover, slip. Catch, cover, slip. Catch, cover, slip. You see I got this tendency to want to reach out and muffle as we're moving around? I know he's not throwing back yet, but still yet, you're trying to get that alive feel the entire time. Now we're going to add something else on this. Catch. We got the cover. He slips. He's going to return that hook again, and I got to cover one more time. So we're taking this up and looking at it. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Get the idea? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're getting the idea. You can take these same, go ahead, relax a moment. You can take these same concept and keep adding on punch, counter, punch, counter, punch, counter. And you can start building this through 4 points, 5 points, 6 points, 7 points. But as you saw with the combinations, entropy and memory starts coming in. I suggest taking them up to about 4 or 5 points on your counter-punching flow drills. Once you hit the 6 and 7, the entropy comes in, chances are you're going to really start biting and eating some targets. But the beautiful thing about that is you keep throwing, you keep defending no matter what. Now, again, stair-step process. Arsenal down, offensive arsenal down, defensive arsenal. Then run from that into your combinations. Get used to throwing punches and multiples. Then you get your trigger punching, the idea of what it feels like to be thrown at and return on a 1-to-1 ratio, and then start marrying this together with your counter-punching flow ideas. Now, if you don't necessarily want to run immediately to ABCs of NHB, which I advocate, I give you 20 of those drills, and we show you how to flip them over and turn that into 40 drills. So you imagine if we're giving you this much material here, there's a hell of a lot on that DVD as well. Then you get that idea. Then also there we show you how to build your own counter-punching flow drills. And at that point, I become superfluous. You start building them on your own as long as they have a logical build in them all the way. Now, I cannot advocate doing counter-punching flow drills enough. And this is exactly the step in the process where we got to put this in. Right after trigger punching, go to flow drills, spend months on these. You get counter-punching flow drills down, it is practically time to jump you in the ring and begin to get you set on sparring. Because everything that comes after this and this material is going to be finesse, assuming that you understand how to do a flow drill. It's time to move on. We got all the groundwork from beginner, intermediate, even advanced level. It's time to start getting to some of the finesse ideas. Now we're going to start talking about feinting, F-E-I-N-T, not fainting, F-A-I-N-T, where you fall down on your ass and don't get back up until someone gets this, breaks out the smelling salts. I also need to go ahead and make sure we're woefully aware of, as men behind the camera, Dave Dubrow in particular, Rorschach of the sweat duck on my shirt. So I know it's there. You at home, if you hadn't seen it, take a look or make of it whatever you want. Maybe it's not a duck to you. we'll give a prize to whoever comes up with the best interpretation. Feinting is nothing more than giving a false body motion to try and fake your opponent out of position. It's the other side of this would be drawing, which we'll be covering next. But feinting, anything you can do to make them make a motion to come out of a nice tight cover. If I got a guy who's nice and tight the entire time, and I can throw all the punches in the world I want to him, but if he's stonewalled, I'm not going to be able to get to the inside. So I can keep throwing punches. I might end up hurting my hands on top of his arms. So if at all possible, I need to try and bait a reaction out of him. So it could be baiting or feinting. These terms are interchangeable. It's a good idea whenever you're throwing a feint and the feint doesn't necessarily work for you, go ahead and turn it into a jab, because a half punch is worse than no punch at all. But some of the ideas, whenever you're feinting, you can feint with your shoulders, your arms, your hips, your knees, your eyes, and it doesn't really take me to too much. You're going to run through a basic vocabulary of feints. It's be really quick. Basically, if you just keep a nice arm swing going on, it's hard for your opponent to read what's going to come out of this position. Now, with feinting, you can feint up and go down, which means just fake the jab high and shoot it low. Or you can go down and up with this sort of thing. It makes total sense as we're facing right here. You give a half portion, we see this, a halfway range of the jab, and actually want to bring this thing down. So it's half and then down. You can reverse that by going down with a half portion, then all the way up into the high level. So we see, you already get the idea, it's doing the fake out. It's the sort of thing that good fighters play well, and lots of fighters forget to do, even though they might work the drills in the gym, but often feinting drills are not included. And that's why people don't really pull them out in a sparring match. We're trying to make sure they are included here. You can feint by drawing back with the rear hand. You can raise the hands up and do some drawbacks. You can do a little knee shift. Basically, any way you juke and jive and shift your body the entire time. So it's worth your effort to spend some time before the mirror, faking high, actually throwing low, moving the body around in different areas and different permutations. But at the same time, every time you're moving, you want to start identifying where a true low would be from. So from here, if I fake this rear hand shot, it's actually loading me up on this rear side for perhaps an uppercut. I'd be faking in with the rear shot. It could be faking me out and cocking me up for the hooking shot. Really doesn't take much time. Just get in front of the mirror, do a little bit of moving around before you throw on anything. A lot of people just want to shadow box and throw punches constantly when it's valuable to you to do lots of faking motions to see what comes out in the game. Now, what we're going to do after this little lecture portion, we'll pull Mitch back out here and actually give you maybe about a dozen ideas, a few feint drills you can use. These are not all the ones. If you find just almost anything you do to juke and jive with your opponent will serve as a feint to serve to bait this guy in. So keep in mind the drills I'm giving you, just a couple of handfuls to get you going in case you're going, I'm not sure where to apply these. So I'll apply some feints, some footwork, and then come back with a real shot. Just keep in mind, any feint, any fake, any bait is actually going to pay dividends, but you only need to use it against a tight fighter. If you got a guy who's loose, there's really no need to feint it unless you're just kind of playing him, trying to outclass him in the psyops game. As promised, a couple of handfuls of feinting drills. Again, not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. And once you see how these kind of play out, you really don't even necessarily need them. It'll work each of them maybe 3-minute rounds, and then after that, you can probably throw them away as long as you keep the idea of feinting at the top of your strategic game. Start making up your own as you go. First we're going to play is we're going to feint the jab low, and then we're going to jab high and then move out. So we're just moving around. Obviously, it's about a half measures. Rise up immediately, put the jab in, and come back out. You want to give me a cash hand on that?
Sure.
So, out on it. We're moving around. See, what you're trying to do with that feinting is enough. You're trying to make the reaction happen. Even here, Mitch knows it's coming, so he's giving me a little bit of reaction and fake with it. Feinting doesn't really work when you're telling your opponent what you're doing, but that's in the context of the drill. He's got to know. But again, what we're trying to do is make him bring those hands down low to some degree and then come back up high. So we're here, fake low, back high, and get back up. Of course, we can reverse this, where we obviously can do the fake on the high, hit the low, and come back out. We know we want to come out anyway because we're at the low level. So again, we try and get a reaction here, half measures, and then hit him low and come back out. Get the idea on how that's working already. Now what we can also do is use some footwork trying to set this guy up in a particular rhythm pattern. This sort of thing is useful to know. We're gonna, on this one, we're gonna jab, move out. As we come back in, we're gonna feint and move out. The next time we throw, we're gonna feint and then go ahead and connect with the jab. This will make sense in a moment. So here, first right up front, I throw a jab. He's reacted off of this. And then I'm gonna move out on this, so again, we get the jab, move out. I'll come in, give him a half measure jab, trying to get him interested in what's going on. The next one, I give him that half measure in the jab, and as I pull back, I go ahead and reconnect with the jab anyway. So slowly make sure we're getting our brains wrapped around this. It's not that difficult. Then we'll repeat this pattern. So we've got the jab, leaving me high, feint, leaving me high, feint, then put the jab in. So you see how you can play with finding the false measures to draw someone out. You can start playing with the false rhythms with them as well. So again, jab, out, fake, out, fake, stay in, and finish off with the jab. The fourth one we'll play with, similar concept. We're going to throw the jab cross, we're going to move out, then we're going to feint, move out, come back in, feint, and connect. So it's the same thing as we just did in the last one, except we're adding that cross on top. So it's a 1-2 feint. So we've got the jab, cross, moving out with them. I'm actually giving half measures on both of these, then I come back in, half measures, then reconnect. So again, slowly step in, 1, 2, out. Give them the idea that I want to hit, come in, start it up, and then go ahead and hit them. So, get the idea. Moving on to the next one, we can do the same thing with the jab and the rear hook. At this point, you just kind of see we're just kind of playing with what the combination is going to be, doing the exact same thing. We've got the jab, throw the rear hook for real, come out, come back in, feint with them, move back out, then move, feint, then jab, and put the rear hook in. Again, you see it's how, even with the context of the drill, Mitch knows what's coming, but it's really hard not to, whenever you know punches or what's coming at you, the feinting still starts throwing you off a little bit. So if you think about it, if it starts working, you're going to find when you start drilling with someone, you get deep in the round, you start going, oh yeah, which one do I react to? So whenever your opponent doesn't know what's coming, it's all the sweeter. So we got the jab, rear hook, bang, bang, out, fake it, fake, and then the jab, the rear hook. Of course, that rear hook's a little long, almost like a cross, but still the same concept. The real shot, and out, fake it, feint it, out, feint, and apply. Now, everything doesn't have to be on this straight back and forth rhythm, because we already saw that I faked high, went low, faked low, and went high. What we can also do about faking low, instead of having to come out each time, we can fake low to rise up with something real. In this case, we're going to fake low and rise up with a real hook. So here, fake low, get his reaction, and right up high, we'll go upstairs. We'll spin that one. So we're moving around, fake him, get his hands down low. In this case, he knows it's coming. I want him to stay covered up for safety. But here, you're trying to really do enough to make him think, this feint isn't enough to make him go low. I got to give him the mechanics of what that punch looks like and not insult his intelligence and come back up high. Right back up. Oh, you felt that one, didn't you? Yeah. Get the idea. Fake low, come right back up high. What we can also do is we can fake low and come back up high, but this time we'll come back up with the cross. So the jab is fake, the cross is for real. So we're here, right back on top. We'll turn that one. Fake low and back up high. Low and back up high. So we see we're faking with different levels, and we're faking with some in and out shots at the same time. Another concept to play with within your feinting game, your baiting game, is to take a combination and mix it up. Where let's say we'll take a 2-point combination, feint one of the punches, the second one's the one you actually meant. We'll take the standard 1-2 combination. Here we know jab cross, but here I'm going to give half measures on the jab so we can get a response out of that and really mean for the cross to make the contact. Again, we're moving around with it, fake, and put the second one in, fake, and hit, feint, and hit. Easy enough concept. Again, you got to take these things through their 3-minute rounds. When you start devising your own feints, do the same thing. Take some of the earlier combinations, or take combinations that you feel a particular affinity for, and start figuring out the first motion of them that you can make into a feint, so you can follow up with the remainder of it, or find out if you can do the feint with the moving in and out. Again, at this point, it should all start coming together for you to understand how this works. Again, I can throw the feint on the jab, still use this 1-2 combination, feint on the jab, so we're going to double them up. So get a fake here, he's responding to this, I come in with the cross. But we can also do faking within the combination and faking at the level. So I'm giving him a fake here, but the cross low is what we really wanted the entire time. So you're moving around, fake, we wanted this shot right here. Get the idea. Falling off of that, we can fake a straight line whenever we actually wanted to open up a hooking angle. So we'll turn this one around, because a lot of people can have nice guard. Again, we're talking about people who are nice and tight. That's why we have to use a feint. Now, if Mitch has got a loose guard, we're fighting all the time like this, I don't need feinting. You're just going to get the inside with good boxing technique. But this guy's fairly tight. I'm thinking, you know, my hook's not going to make it. My jab, he's demonstrated he's got good defense with the jab. So I'm going to start baiting him with a few jabs that I really don't mean much to it, but you see how it's pulling him slightly out of position. So I'm going to give him a jab with half measures and really let the hook be my major intent behind the entire thing. So take the jab, put the hook in on top of it. Here, then on top. Well, that's close, isn't it? Yeah, curtain on that one. And again, you notice at the same time, I'm giving the same exhaling of air. I've been talking through most of this. Best thing with punch, you need to blow out with each of your punches. But I'm giving that little bit of an audible signal as well to give him something to think, oh, he really means this jab. I really mean this. So listen, you're getting the exhalation on the jab, even the second portion of the combination is what I really want. Get the idea on that one. We can also, we fake the jab, we put in the hook angle. Now we can fake the jab and still hit a different level and bring it in at a different angle at the same time. We'll turn this around again. I'm going to fake the jab. The rear uppercut is what I have in mind. So we've maybe tried a few feints, we tried a few crosses. He's been good about taking care of these. We even tried a few hooks, even off my feint. He's covered up on that. But at this point, that we might have done enough to make him think that our game is all about head hunting. So we'll keep him on the head hunting idea. Half measures here, and the uppercut right here might be the one that bites for you. So fake the jab, rear uppercut. Get the idea on that one. We can also fake a 1-2, which is an unusual to fake two punches at the same time. So here we're going fake, we're half measures on both, but you'll be surprised once you start moving around and people get a little bit anxious about playing a sparring game or the actual fights going on, what people will respond to. So here we're talking about get a guy paying attention to that. Once he's paying attention to this, we're going to take one additional step, go ahead and step in and make the final punch on this, the one we mean, which is going to be a jab. So I get a slight shuffle in, fake a 1-2. He's concentrating on this, and then one more step to put a real jab on top. So we're here. Now this is fairly common, this sort of thing you see in pro boxing, where you see a lot of people look like they're just doing fake punches, is what they are doing. Whenever we're watching from the outside, this sort of thing has a tendency to look like a waste of time. Because you got to keep in mind where the perspective is when you're facing with it, that you get the idea. All you're seeing is fists coming straight down the line, and it's really hard to tell which one is the fake and which isn't. When you're watching from the outside, for example, this profile or any kind of match, faking looks like wasted measures. When it's head on, you really hard. I defy people to figure out which punches are intentional and which ones were the fake. So from the side, we can see that was clearly half measures, full measures. But straight on, you're going to go, which ones are the real ones as they're coming directly in? So feinting from the sidelines, or if the apron of the ring doesn't read as anything. But as soon as you're facing, you go, oh, that makes all the difference in the world. And that's why you need this in your arsenal. We faked a 1-2 combination, stepped in, put in a jab. In this case, we're going to fake a cross and hook the body. So we're faking a rear hand shot, and then we're changing up the angle on them and going low. So we're here, get that fake shot on it. There's our fake. We actually wanted the body. So we're here, fake, hit the body, fake, on the body, fake, on the body. Starting to get the idea. Again, from this side, the fakes might be more obvious tells, a lot harder when you're standing directly in front of them. We can also start doing feinting with different parts of the body. We can do like shoulder feinting, then fire with something else. Like shoulder feinting, and it's going to be one of those things that doesn't really read when I'm facing for the profile. If we're here, I want to fire the cross. A shoulder feint would be instead of me having to bring my arm out. Because in this case, maybe I have to realize every time I've done half measures, Mitch has been so sharp on his counter punching, he's making me pay for even open up on the halfway measures. So instead, I'm going to feint with smaller motions. In this case, it's going to be like, I give the shoulder. My hands never have to leave position. We'll see this in profile. Give this a little bit of a shoulder in. It still is enough for your opponent to read it, think something's going on. This shoulder's the one that's moving. Looks like it's probably a jab. If not a jab, it's going to be a lead hook. And actually what we're doing is we're cocking up this rear hand for the cross. So facing in, it's going to be like, give that little bit of shoulder feint. We're going to follow up with the rear hand. So here, the cross is what we mean. We want them to react to this. So the hands are still basically in the same defensive position, fake, and then in. From the profile, fake, and then in, fake, and then in with that shoulder, the lead shoulder feint. You can also feint with a twist to set up your lead hook. And a twist, again, from the side, doesn't look like much. So from straight on, what we're doing, we want to load this lead hand for the hook. I can't do the same shoulder feint because this brings me forward, and then I would have to cock back and throw this hook. Now, this can work if I'm kind of doing beat and a half feinting. If you think about how we did the beat punching with combination, you can do the same sort of beats within your feinting drills. Here, what we're going to do on the twist is I'm going to fake this rear shoulder around. So it's basically a shoulder feint, but done with the rear shoulder. It's happened to be called a twist in the old boxing parlance. Put this twist in. Enough to make them react. Think it's a rear hand shot. Think it's a cross. It's an overhand. It's a rear hook. Actually, what we're doing is we're loading up for this to return with the rear, with the real lead hook. So we're facing. Might do enough of this. Again, I'm thinking I want this hand. It's really what I want here. Now, I do not want to do too many big feints in a row along those lines. I want him to go, just constantly faking that twist. I know something's coming in. So we got to make feints, mix them up. It could be here. And then you put that twist in, and you got that lead hook on top of it. So we're here, twist, and back on top of the lead hook. Twist, back on top. Give you one more concept to play with in feinting. And again, it's not all the drills or the possible ideas in feinting, but it's more than enough to get you on your way. I would probably insist that you work the ones I presented to you for at least the three-minute rounds. And after that, kind of free form, play like a jazz musician and improvise within your game. You can also actually throw a punch, but be totally aware that you're going to fall short on it so you can refire on it. So let's say we're playing a game. Mitch has been staying on the outside with me. We're going to say that he's got a reach advantage on me, and I keep meaning jabs to land, but I'm always slightly on the outside. I can't quite get him. So in this sense, you see, since it's not half measures, my jab is really going to him. I want this jab, and it gets to a point where he's only reacting to the jab, and I've been missing with it. So I'm going to keep throwing him for real. If he's on the outside, even these half-measure jabs won't mean anything to him. So I throw a real jab, then immediately step in and throw a second real jab, knowing, with every intention, knowing it's only the second one that's going to make the difference for me. So on the outside, real jab, step in, get the second one's the one that will bite. So in this sense, it's feinting with a real shot. So if he happened to have stepped in and be in the proper range on that first punch, then I got the jab. That's okay. Just make sure we can understand how feinting can blend the lines of being fake and being a real portion of your arsenal. So we're here, real jab, step in, bite with the second one. So it's jab, get the second one in, jab, step in, jab, step in. But keep in mind, you know where you're using this. You're fighting against someone who's playing on the outside, and he's not responding to all the fake measures because he's got a good eye for the game. So we're having to use real shots that are actually fakes to set up the real shot. Bit of a paradox, but it still can play off in your game.